welcome, guys. Today we're going to be looking at Russ's top 5 Huddy products you didn't know that you can't live without.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do. So I thought you guys have done painting videos and talked about colours, and I thought, well, I could do the same, but you covered off a lot of the ones I'd probably mention. So I thought actually it's probably a good idea to talk about building models, because I do a lot of that, because I build stuff, put it in the cupboard, and never paint it.
It's a big deal too, because right, if you don't manage to get to painting, you might have already managed to get to assembly. So net, you're going to help more people than advice on paintball, because there's plenty of grey armies out there.
Yeah. Just like my
Cue Dan
corn
Mitchell
army.
joke.
I
was going to say cue Dan Mitchell joke.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
It's actually painted. Screw you guys. I'm going home. Taking my ball with me. So you probably already know, but this Revel contactor, which I've got on the screen, instead of one holding it up, but it's to prove I have it.
It's the best glue.
Is plastic glue. So it's poly cement, and for those that talk about using PVA glue, don't. People who use super glue to glue plastics, you're weird.
Wow.
Naughty.
Wow.
Chris Tomlin.
PVA can be used for certain things.
No, but not actually
like
sticking it.
Like
together.
canopies for wave serpents,
Yeah,
so you
but
don't
not
get them
generally.
to fog up.
I've had some horror stories when I
Not
used to...
sticking dreadnoughts.
Not Timmy's dreadnought together.
Yeah.
So basically, this is poly cement, and if you don't know, it only works on plastic because it basically melts the plastic and forms a bond. Why this stuff's so good is it's got a needle, like this very thin nozzle, so applying it is really easy. Now, if you've had this before and you're like, it looks a little bit like the old GW one, but the problem is the stuff that GW used to sell was pretty bad. And I believe they had a really bad batch early on when they changed, and then it just didn't work. And then I think I glued some models together and they fell apart. But anyway, this stuff is amazing.
Yeah.
Comes with a generic purchase of a lighter, just in case you need to buy a lighter.
I actually use this, which is piano wire. Now, it's very, 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 very thin and very, very strong.
That's for your sideline as a
hitman
murderer, right?
Yeah.
Well,
it's about the length of the average neck.
This was given to me by an ex-heavy metal painter when I worked at another games company. Because he had it on his desk and he used it for pinning models, and I've used it for clearing my plastic glue.
Yeah,
top. That is a true story. Anyway, so
legit.
This can get clogged. Now, if you want to free it, then you can use a lighter, but it's flammable. So try to don't do it.
Take the metal thing,
the metal
out
tube
of the
out.
glue.
Don't just
the glue. Yeah,
I'm not going to recommend using a lighter. I don't use a lighter.
Well, if people were to, don't use the middle of the flame only for a short amount of time, work it quickly over it, and that's the way to go. You don't want to do the end of the flame with anything in a hobby, because that's where stuff turns black. And then the other thing that hasn't been mentioned, which is if you don't have piano wire because you're not a serial killer, a toothbrush or stiff bristled brush with the longest bristles possible, that of course as thin as possible, that will also do a pretty good job of getting... Probably the blockage is going to be in the last third, so you can just do that enough times and one of them will go in. So that's one way that you can clear it as well.
Cool.
It hardly ever... It clogs, but it doesn't clog very often. It's just...
most just put the lid back on, you idiots. If it's clogged, that's why.
Yeah.
I can say that because that idiot's been me a lot of times.
I do some epic build sessions, so we've all done it. Come on.
Yeah.
Next one is Tamiya sanding sponge. Now, this stuff is amazing for taking off mold lines, smoothing over plastic, anything really.
Smoothing over the Revel glue that you've used too much of to fill a gap.
So normally it is quite addictive though, because when you start sanding models, you tend to sand the whole model regardless because it makes it look nice. But what I find it's really good at just taking off that super smooth shine and smoothing out mold lines and edges, and I use it quite a lot to take off very fine mold lines. So it's really useful stuff. It's really good. I can't recommend it enough. You can cut it to different sizes and shapes, like Byron's showing you there, and you can just
cut it. If you cut it, put it sand side down, because otherwise you're blunting your blades and you get a worse quality of cut. And on a cutting mat, and then just cut all the way through it, and you'll literally have like a super perfect straight line, which can be useful. And this allows you to do things like wrap it round surfaces and stuff like that. It's amazing.
Yeah, I use it all the time. It's normally my finishing step when I'm assembling models. So the reason I like the Revel glue, as Les mentioned, is you can spooge it out more than you need, and then you can almost use the plastic and the glue to fill the gap, and then you use the sanding sponge after you've used a knife or a mold line tool to smooth it down.
What a fantastic holistic combination of things you're talking about, Russ.
I know. So next thing, and this is a bit of a strange one, and is tweezers. Now, the reason I'm going to talk about these is specifically that they are non-magnetic tweezers.
Yeah.
So for me, these cost me £1 on Amazon, I think. So probably from China. But basically, they are non-magnetic stainless steel. Now, what that means is when you're doing magnets, they become a bit of a godsend because it allows you to move the magnet around or drop it into a hole without using your fingers, getting super glue on your fingers.
Super glue everywhere.
I had a particularly horrible job of magnetizing 15 Space Wolves and all their arms and attachments, and I had to use the smallest magnets I've ever used in my life. And without this, I don't think I'd be able to do it. So it's a new one for me. It's in a packet because I bought multiple of them in error. So I bought like 4 of them in error because it was part of the Amazon buy 20 quid or for free delivery add-on items, whatever they call them.
The delivery before.
So the tips of the tweezers can be quite fragile. So if you're a little bit heavy-handed, you can bend them. So be a little bit careful, but they're cheap as anything. Don't spend 20 quid on hobby ones or something like that. Just get non-magnetic stainless steel tweezers, and you can get them really cheap. And they do the job because all you want to do is pick something up basically, and you can use them.
Do you go for angled or not? Sorry to interrupt, Russ. Do you because there's generally 2 types: there's the straight ones, the angled ones. Do you have preferences?
Straight as well. Depends what you're doing. They're angled. I like the angled ones.
I prefer angled.
I think
it lets you see what you're doing.
Yeah, I think they allow you to get round a little bit better, and depends what you're doing. I think angled are better for what we do. I've used both, and the angled work better for me.
I've got just straight, and I wish they were angled. So,
just to completely contradict Russ, Tammy do a nice set that I think are about £11, and they're the ones I use, and mine's 10 years old, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone through 2 of those sets of tweezers already by bending the end, so you pay for, don't you? So I'd say you can.
Russ is heavy-handed.
Yeah, sort of. I think it was more the floor than me. It wasn't because I threw him across the room or anything.
Tweezers like sticking to the wall. Like.
God damn you, Space Wolves! No.
I did that with some decking recently.
Non-magnetic tweezers is the key point.
Yeah, it's a really good idea.
Now, this one, a little bit controversial. This is for the simp accusers out there. Is the GW mold line tool. Now, the reason it's in there is a lot of people use their hobby knife. So, again, it's a GW one. I know people are going to scream at me.
So, I've got these because I'm Tom Maudsley.
Don't use scissors. Right, so
I'm joking.
A lot of people use a scalpel to scrape mold lines by putting it like an angle on the model and then doing like a 45-degree angle. Now, it works, it's fine, but when you've got a long, big sweeping surface like a cloak or something like that, you can get knife judder, particularly if the knife blade, the angle is changing, so you've got to change the angle of the blade as you're running it down, which isn't easy, and you get this like juddery mark, so you get these little lines. You've probably seen it before if you use a knife a lot. That is purely because you're cutting into the surface rather than taking the mold line off. This doesn't do that, and is really good for stuff like cloaks, anything sweeping and cut. It's not going to get into little things like between fingers or into grips. That's where you're going to need to use your knife is normal. But for sweeping things like cloak joints or like flesh joints on shoulders and things like that, it's a godsend, honestly.
Particularly the angled bit, isn't it? The curvature of it, because it's quite straight and quite flat for like taking off those big flat panels on like a marine tank or like the curvature, which I'm sure you can see that bit there is just perfect for just taking those bits off. That just covers it all really well.
Yeah, I use both sides of it. Like it doesn't. I view even the tip, to be honest. it doesn't. It's just basically a blunt piece of metal with an angle on it that is really good, like for that.
It's
and
the right shape.
It's the right shape, and it doesn't do a lot of damage to your model. So it's one of the things that people probably scoffed at, and I did actually when it came out. But after using it, it's something I would definitely have access to. Now, you can't clean a model up completely with it, but if you're trying to take your assembly to the next level, and when you assemble a model, you are basically building the foundation for your paint job, is how I look at it. So the more effort you go into that foundation work, the better you're putting a paint job over a high quality base, rather than, oh, okay, well, I've slapped it together and there's a mould line or there's a gap. And then you put a really good paint job, but the first thing someone says is, oh, there's a mould line. Oh, there's a gap. Yeah. Oh, what happened to that? Oh, it broke off. So
even if you're doing a fast paint job, I mean, contrast is a thing, wash is a thing, dry brushing, airbrushing. If there's not texture there because you didn't F up and because you did make it smooth, you can actually get away with doing a faster paint job and having it look better. That's
like my corn army. All jokes aside, is the assembly of it is top end because I'm dry brushing it and I don't want errant lines, ridges. You know, and also if you've smoothed the plastic over, you get a really nice finish, and painted here's better, which is a thing. Which is
you mentioned it with your sandpaper. The prime scraped primed surfaces prime better. I know I've said prime there twice, but you get more consistent finish.
Yeah, and sometimes you've got release agent on the model, so it sands it off.
I mean, we're not snobs with mould lines, are we? But it's because like we've all missed them. Everyone misses mould lines. It's what you know.
But I mean, it's like a bit of a brushstroke. But at the end of the day, it's like it's completely avoidable to actually do this stuff. It's simple.
It's within your control.
It's and I think it's
speed it up too. When you're not worried about cutting into your model, you can speed it up.
Yeah. So I mean, I would recommend a mould line remover tool for those that laugh. Now this one has been the find of the century for me. Plastic Putty, which has this very nice thin applicator, so it's very, very small. You can probably see the end of that.
Looks like you're about to decorate a cake.
Yeah, well, it is essentially like a tube of filler. So what it allows you to do is very, very controlled put this in the gaps between joins on a model, which actually works like liquid green stuff is meant to work.
Yep.
And you can fill pretty much anything with it, and you might have to do one or two applications. But I know you did it on your guy with the Skaven runes, didn't you? You filled in all the recesses. So
not sure. Yeah,
it's hard to see it, but you can see it there. So you see the white on the runes on the collar. That's actually plastic putty. Now, what's amazing about this stuff is it literally goes in any gap, and then you can smooth it over. Now, I use you can use your finger, but what you will find is that your finger will press into the gap and you'll still get a little gap there. So you can actually use rubberized sculpting tools are quite good.
Clay shapers.
Yeah, so I've got a set like here. This is a bonus one.
Oh, it's a noisy bonus.
Sorry. So like it's like rubbered. Shaped, and you can use those to.
How we've all got like how much use mine's had. Look at the state of it.
Yeah. And what it allows you to do is you can smooth over a gap between two surfaces, and the tool, if you do it across, isn't going to go in the gap, but use your finger and you're going to get a natural little bit where your flesh sticks in. So you're always going to end up with a join line. So
I also use the GW texture.
Yeah, good shout.
Yeah, good shout.
Yeah. Because that's got like the small applicator and the wide sort of spade applicator, and I use that quite a lot as well. Again, you can see the use on mine is like dirty and messed up because I break everything. Is what I do. Like everything in my house is hard wearing because I.
That was the best thing about that expert paint set. It came with like 5 of these. The one that had all those tints that you could make your own custom colours.
Yeah.
Random set.
I've got one of those in a box.
Yeah, so have I. All I've done is taken out the tools and nothing else. I think I got it as a prize at an event or something. I can't remember. But...
Yeah, I think I got it as a prize at an event. I did this.
Maybe the same thing. I don't know. But yeah, plastic putty. So this stuff's really good. It's from Vallejo. highly recommend it. If you're going to buy it, get it in this tube. Don't get it in the paint pot version, because you want the applicator.
So I've got the AK one as well, and it is really good, but I never use it because I can't apply it because it looks like toothpaste. It's like a toothpaste tube.
People have probably seen me putting it on my thumb and then applying it with a brush or something like that. That's because I don't have a precision tip, so I need to pick up. I have the product, but I don't have it in the right applicator.
Yeah, so it's just acrylic resin basically, and you can feel the gap. It will dry. You can sand it, smooth it, cut it, whatever. It's not going to be a replacement for green stuff for big gaps, but what I tend to do is blog the gap mostly with green stuff, and then I finish it with this, because it's easier to work to a nice finish for me. So if you don't have it, pick up a tube. It's fairly cheap.
Yeah, it's wicked.
Just a bonus one, super glue. Everyone talks about super glue. I don't use hobby super glues. I use Loctite.
No.
It's fairly cheap. It's really, really good. There's loads of different ones. There's gel ones and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I just use Loctite super glue. I just find it the best.
Yeah. It's so good.
Is it precise enough for you, the end on that one?
Do you know what? They've got so many different nozzles and tips. And
I used to want to use it
so it does go a bit manky for me, because I'm really shit using super glue, because I tend to always end up with air bubbles and stuff because I don't know what I'm doing. I tend to buy the smaller one in bulk because they're like £1 something, and you can buy 10 of them on Amazon. One thing that I did get put onto by Chris Mills, which is Fluff in our Discord, from his missus, because it's little nail art toucher up glues. It's effectively super glue in a small. I think I've got some here. This is a bit off piece. I don't know where they are, but yeah, they're basically little cartridges for when they have nail stuff and it falls off. It's to reattach it. It's for repairs.
Oh, cool.
And it's a really small. It's basically a one-time use super glue. And that glue is really, really strong. I did it on my mortise engine spear snapped off, and so I just put a little dab and touched it, and it was solid. Wow. And it lasted the whole event. It was really good. So that's a good one for repairs if you want. I mean, you could
cool.
It's nail art super glue. They look like little.
It'll be acrylic nail art, nail fix or whatever.
Yeah, they just look like little little pen lids basically, but it's a super glue shot.
It'd be Mel and Fluff, if you're watching this, comment.
Yeah.
Because I know Fluff does watch it. Tell us what it is. Yeah,
I did pick up a load. I've got them in a bag somewhere.
Pin it.
But I put one. I normally have one in my hobby case, so in case I need it. So it lives in my. I put one in the hobby case, and I use it. I don't use it for my general building, but it's really good for repairs. But Loctite super glue. It's just what I use. I'm not saying that others aren't good, but this is what I found to work for me, and it's best to use that.
Sweet. Another random top tip with Loctite super glue and on the filling thing, small gaps you can use super glue, leave it to dry, and then sand it again and use that if it's very small. I use that quite a lot.
You can also do that with varnish.
Yeah, Darren Latham turned me onto that from one of his YouTube videos. I think he did it in one of his where he fills small gaps with super glue and then sands it down. So
dries fairly fast as well. So some methods have a drying time, and super glues is the lowest, I think.
Yeah, super good. So just thought it might be useful. Some hobby products you might not own or haven't used. So for me, when I assemble a model, I essentially always use those tools. There's not any of those I don't use, and with those, obviously the hobby knife being the obviously number one thing you need, and the pair of clippers on top of that. But they're things that everyone should own. So these are kind of the peripheral stuff that you might not use. So I
have one question that I know we're going to get, and people might have already asked when they saw that we didn't cover it with the sandpaper. What grit do you use?
I have tried lots of different ones. I don't think it really matters. I normally buy what's in stock. So this is a 2000. I've used 600. I've used 1500. I've used 800. Yeah. Cool. Honestly,
600 is the lowest number to go for if people aren't aware of sandpapers. Otherwise, you'll get something that's made for sanding a house. So anything that is great 600 or greater is where to go, and
so the higher the number, the finer it is, basically.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm just gonna say the faster you'll go if you have a big one. So something around 800, something around 1500 is a great two to have.
I think it's like 1200 is my normal, 1200 to 1500.
Which is the one that you've got a lot of usually in stock, Byron, because that's the one that I tend to get the most of.
Oh, we've got all of it. There's hundreds of them. I've got like 6 on the go. I'd agree with Russ. Once you're basically, if you're not bigger than 800, it doesn't matter too much. But I've got 3,600 and 1,500 all in use currently.
Yeah, I've got loads of them, like all random bits cut up, and it does handily tell you on the back. So if you cut it up and you've got bits, you can tell.
I've got Tamiya paper.
Okay.
So you got a
Tamiya paper.
But the sponge I find really good because it's got give in it. So as you put pressure on it, it kind of shapes itself to the surface you're doing it in. So
I prefer the sponge, to be honest. I think that's. Don't know where mine is.
They last forever as well. They last until they run out. They don't break. They don't get fluffy. They're awesome.
No, I mean unless you clean up corn.
Good point.
If you clean up corn models, you can end up with lots of ripping like that. Now the reason it's on that is because I tend to do that and sand it.
Yes.
Which is lazy because I could have just cut it up. But what I normally do is I do the four corners like that if I'm doing big models. So I'll just sand it like this, and then when I get to a point where I'm like, all this bit here is all messed up, I'll cut it up and just cut those bits out, and then use the smaller squares. But I think this was a 1500, but it's a bit faded, so you can see the
1500 is blue.
So anyway, any grit that you want to use that you feel works.
Sweet.
I wouldn't go, like I said, I wouldn't go lower than 800. I think you said.
6 or 8. If anyone's got any awesome hobby things that we haven't mentioned that I think we could benefit from, please let us know, because we're always on the hunt for it. When I discovered those sanding sponges, it pretty much changed my life of assembly. So if there's more of those out there, I'm after some more unlocks.
I think you unlocked that for me, Byron. That was your achievement. So this is how, like, in all seriousness, is that talking to other hobbyists and find out what they do and having a bit of an experiment is how you find your new normal. So, we're always open to suggestions. So put stuff in the comments below if there's something we're completely not talked about.
It was like using hard coat varnish to fill small gaps on models. Matt Leons from the Pro Painted podcast pointed that out to me, and I was just like, and now it's my go-to for everything. It's just like little things like that,
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think that about wrap it up for this show. So thanks for watching, and let us know what you think below, and we'll see you on Christmas Day.
Cheers, Russ.
Cool. Cheers, guys.